You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon,
A podcast of friends.
Today, we're going to be talking about the third episode of the third season of Doctor Who, Gridlock, which aired on April 14th, 2007. And we have a couple of returning guests joining us. We have Christine Cherry.
Hi.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Awesome.
As much as I can be in Los Angeles in 2025, in America in 2025.
Yeah. And joining us from traffic, we have Steve Conway. Welcome back.
Hey, it's lovely to be back again. I am the official provider of authentic car sound effects to this episode because I'm in the county of Westmeath in the centre of Ireland, where we had a big storm recently and it knocked out all the phone lines and the internet where I live. So I've had to drive into the local town to get some cell signal. So I am sitting in a stationary car as appropriate for Gridlock.
Have you been there for 20-something years?
I've been here for 20-something minutes.
Oh, that's pretty close.
It's about how long this podcast is going to go, 20 years.
20
this
years?
episode, yeah.
And then hopefully you'll reach your destination.
Also, I will explain later on, but Gridlock is an appropriate episode for me also, as I am married to a Macra.
I do have questions.
I have questions as well.
I heard that Ireland was more progressive.
I don't know why, but I thought you were going to say cat.
No.
Oh, yeah.
There's an organization in Ireland for farming people or people in rural areas, and it's called Macra na Ferma, which is Irish for children of the farm. And my wife was a Miss Macra back in the 1990s.
Absolutely amazing.
You could say I'm married to a Macra queen.
Amazing.
I will. Children of the Farm also sounds very ominous.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there. Come join us. We're children of the farm.
Hopefully your wife does exist.
She does exist, and she's not at all snappy.
That's good. All right. So we ready to talk about this episode?
Let's do it.
All right. I'm going to do a quick summary. I have an alternate title for this episode, Gridlock.
So do I.
Nice. Awesome. You go first.
My alternate title is Carpool Tunnel Syndrome.
You can't go now.
That's
Yours is not that good.
really good.
It'll be embarrassing.
Yeah, that's true. Mine is called Death in the Fast Lane, so yours is better.
I'm going to have to throw out all my notes because I thought we were covering Girl Dick.
Completely different thing.
Yeah. But I'm still here. I can still do this.
You're a Doctor Who fan.
Yeah. I've seen Doctor Who.
All right, so I will do a summary, and we'll just dive right in. Here we go. Gridlock. The Doctor takes Martha to New Earth, where she is promptly kidnapped by a couple looking to carpool to the fast lane in a huge traffic jam. The Doctor tries to follow and finds out from a cat man that this traffic jam has lasted over 2 decades. After further investigation, it turns out that there are Macra at the bottom of the jam feeding on the exhaust. The Doctor is teleported away by a cat woman to the face of Bo, who informs him that the entire government died from a mood drug called Bliss that went viral. Bo trapped everyone in the jam to protect them. Then the Doctor lets everyone out. Bo dies telling the Doctor he is not alone. Then Martha demands that the Doctor fill her in on what the hell is going on with him. And that is my summary.
I want to make one point of correction there. There is no such thing as Macra.
Yeah, there's no that Macra do not exist.
That was part of the reason I wanted to come back for this one, because I was on the last Macra one, which also does not exist.
Wait, you were on the first you weren't on the second Macra one. You were on the first Macra one. Because we
The
done
first
it twice.
Macra one.
We did the animated version.
I was on the original Macra episode.
Yeah. You're the OG, or the OM for Macro.
Yes.
So, what do we want to talk about first? Anybody have anything they're just dying to say about this episode?
Well, I have to say, went back and watched it last night, and I had forgotten how much Russell T. Davies can really pull at the heartstrings in those early seasons. He really does have a way of bringing you along emotionally and making you feel things. I don't know if that's something that is as strong in his new era, but certainly he was a master emotional manipulator back then.
No, one thing that I really love about this episode is the way that it's built around the Doctor's arc. It's got a very concrete arc for the Doctor that's like very literalized in a nice way. I love the bookend of the discussions about Gallifrey. I love Martha just pulling the seat up and being like, tell me, and he starts talking about it. It's like so simple, but so like well done. It's the sort of thing that I wish more stuff like this did, where it's just this very nice, simple, like sign of growth. And so it's not just a fun space adventure. It's, you know, progress for our two characters.
Yeah, he's been jammed up, and then he opens up at the end. He's experiencing his own traffic jam.
Emotional gridlock.
Emotional gridlock, yes.
No.
I also love how much this feels like a Seventh Doctor episode. This feels like a real season 24 episode.
I wonder if part of that is because it is somewhat inspired by 2000 AD comics. Russell T. Davies specifically said he was like, the city is kind of based on the one from Judge Dredd, and that guy in the bowler hat is specifically based on a character from Judge Dredd, which I haven't read, but I know that like the Seventh Doctor era and the like sort of wilderness years novels and stuff is somewhat, there's a lot of like 2000 AD influence going on there as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of Paradise Towers in this. Yeah, both, and it's like kind of social commentary, and it's kind of very colorful, weird aesthetics.
Yeah, I love every like secondary character that we get of just like their whole lives.
No, yeah, I love the whole sequence where the Doctor is going through the cars.
If you exclude the one or two characters that you only see visually for a few seconds, but every character that he talks to is completely believable, and you get a life story, and you actually feel something for them, which is really nice.
Yeah, and also like impressive given the time, like the time constraints of just like, oh my gosh, I love you, and I love you, and I love you.
And also just the production design on each one of those cars, because they get so much out of essentially like 3 sets.
Technically, it's one set redressed a lot.
Well, like, I mean, like the Pharmacy Town set, the car set, and like maybe, you know, the New York Senate set or whatever. That's basically it. Yet the episode feels huge.
Most of it's CGI, and it doesn't look bad. It's held up pretty well, I feel like.
The benefit of setting everything in smog.
And you can almost taste those fumes.
I mean, some of the fumes are real. They shot smoke around the set as well to make it tie in with the CGI stuff. So,
Oh dang.
There's that one shot when the car that the Doctor is in goes, and it just barfs out this like noxious gas that just looks like gaseous pus. Truly horrifying. I love it.
One of the things that was really great for me in this episode was obviously the Brannigan character, because of, you know, who was playing him. Because this is huge in Ireland. But have you guys ever heard of Father Ted?
I have heard of it. I have not seen it, but I did see him in Taskmaster. So
I also saw him in that other show where he played a superhero.
Oh yes. I think that was on BBC for a couple of seasons. But there's this series called Father Ted, which is absolutely iconic in Ireland, about these 3 Catholic priests living on a remote island, and he plays one of the priests, but he plays is this really empty-headed, vacuous character to whom everything in life is constantly a surprise. It was just great seeing him cropping up in Doctor Who, and there's a line that he has which kind of could be straight out of Father Ted, which is, oh, and his head blows up and it's 40 feet wide. Imagine that. And that's written in a very kind of Father Dougal kind of way. There's a lot of us here in the Republic of Ireland. We're next to the UK, and we could receive the BBC signals terrestrially back in the days when you only picked up television through an aerial. So we always watched the BBC, and we always lived for those little moments when there would be some tiny mention of Ireland in a BBC programme. And I remember the absolute joy in The Hand of Fear when that medical doctor asked the doctor if Gallifrey was in Ireland. It was like, yes, Ireland has finally had a mention in Doctor Who. So it's great to see a Father Ted character or actor cropping up in modern day Doctor Who.
The makeup is amazing on him as well, and he is able to act through it really well as well.
Yes.
It's such a good performance. He immediately has so much charisma and so much chemistry. You just fall in love with him immediately. One of my favorite one-off characters from Doctor Who. Just so exciting.
You really get the chemistry between him and the woman. Although I do have a question, and that is, like, he is halfway between cat and man. She is fully human. How come their children are 100% cat and not kind of baby Brannigans?
Because you can't glue things to babies.
They do speak.
They do speak. They do say mama. So that's a little human.
I like the idea that they start out as cats and they just get more and more human as they go.
That's a good fix for that.
It's Doctor Who. You need to have a lot of good fixes.
It's just adorable that there are kittens there too. And apparently David Tennant got really attached to one of them.
Really?
So, yeah. And I don't think he wanted to give it back to whoever owned the cats.
I think it's good because they needed to fix his attitude towards cats.
David Tennant's?
Tens. He didn't.
Oh, yeah, Ten doesn't like cats.
Yeah.
Because of that whole scribble episode, whatever it was called. Fear Her.
Fear Her.
Yeah.
Which is now streamable again?
Yeah, they've replaced the announcer. They've re-recorded the dialogue with a different person.
So everyone gets to experience Fear Her again. Everyone's so excited.
Yay.
Big loss.
I will say, 10 in this episode, like all episodes, is a huge dick the entire time.
Yes.
I talk about this, but I think this is the first time I've actually been on a 10th Doctor episode proper to talk about the way that everyone has misremembered the 10th Doctor as being this very kindly, optimistic, wonderful person, wherein in every scene that he's pissed off at somebody, he is talking down to everyone he meets, and is just kind of annoyed to be there.
And he does do a lot of yelling at people. I have noticed. I feel like people remember 9 as being a dark, moody doctor, and 10 as being very bright and chipper and fun. And I honestly feel it's the other way around. Is that 10's actually more dark and moody and stuff like that, because he has a lot more screaming and yelling, and just 9 occasionally has a grumpy face. That's about it.
But he's a big goofball.
But he is a big goofball, yeah. Doing his little dances and stuff.
I mean, there's a thing, with 10 in this episode in particular, and I'm in two minds about it, because at first I was thinking, why is he unnecessarily lying about, Gallifrey? He's just shutting Martha down every time she asks about it. But then I kind of remembered sometimes we do edit and simplify our lives when we just don't want to talk about something that's hurt us in the past. Instead of kind of launching into a whole description of how big this thing is and how much it hurt us, we just kind of go, oh yeah, everything's okay. So I can kind of appreciate that. And, more particularly, I went through a difficult year last year. I had some cancer that had to be treated via a course of radiotherapy, and it was painful and difficult, and it's all behind me now. And, when I meet someone new and they kind of say, how are you? I don't give them the whole story of, well, I was very sick, but now I'm really fine. I just say, oh yeah, I'm fine. Life is good, because I just want to keep it simple and I don't want to go through that whole thing. And I would never consider talking about it to an audience of podcast people.
Well, it's a good thing we don't have a huge audience.
I will say, he apologizes for not talking about Gallifrey, but in no way apologizes for giving Martha Jones Rose's, like, leftovers. Like, I do like that they mentioned that at the beginning. It's like, you in here with Rose? Yeah, so what? It's like, what is wrong with you?
Why'd you make that choice?
I do like the meta reason for why we go back here that RTD mentioned in The Confidential is that this is the third time we've gone to, this era in time. Started with the end of the world in season 1, season 2 it was New Earth, and this one is the third of the trilogy. And he said it's kind of hard to have continuity with Doctor Who because of every episode you're kind of going somewhere new and everything. And this was a way to sort of keep continuity, have some returning characters without it feeling too forced or weird or whatever. So it just kind of, you could have like some character emotions, like with the face of Bo, for example, that you couldn't have in like a normal 40-minute episode
I
sort
have
of
a
thing.
question for you.
Yeah.
This was
my first episode of Doctor Who.
Oh, wow.
One of the first. I can't remember if it was Blink or this. I know I saw them in the same day. I saw Blink, Girl in the Fireplace, and this episode.
Do you have different feelings about it watching it this time than you did the first time?
For sure, because I'm definitely Martha Jones in this episode, where I'm like, who are all these people? I don't, like, they're acting like I should know who the face of Bo is. I don't know who that is. So there was a lot of, confusion. And I wanted to just pull up a chair and say, hey, show, what is going on? Also, I thought a traffic jam was really stupid when I watched it the first time.
I remember liking this episode more than I remembered, and I feel like part of that is that we did watch it, and you were like, I hate this episode. And then, like, watching it again, I was like, no, this episode is good.
It is good. You got to be in the right mindset.
It's really fun. I gotta say, I remember watching this episode in 2007 or whenever it aired, and I saw it. And the You Are Not Alone bit really plays. I remember being like, what? Tony, you watched this live. I don't know if you can speak to this as well, but like, I feel like this episode, the Face of Bo trilogy at that time felt really massive.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely did. And like, it almost wasn't a trilogy. He was supposed to die at the end of his last appearance. And then someone said, hey, there's too many people dying in this episode. Let's not kill the face of Bo. So they moved it. And like, he was supposed to say, you're not alone last season. Yeah. So clearly RTD has had this in mind for at least a couple seasons.
There's a really clever thing that RTD does in this episode, though. And that is you kind of focus on you're not alone. And you're taking that as the clue to the ongoing arc. And it is a clue. But stealthily in the background, you have a really good first run from Martha of the whole, everybody unite and trust the Doctor. Have faith in the Doctor. That will save you. That turns out to be the salvation at the end of the series.
Yeah, I caught that watching it. I was literally watching the episode just now before I came on. And I was like, oh, wow, yeah, we're really seeding that now.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
True, yeah.
And also, it can also play as, hey, stop being rude to Martha.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're with someone. Be better.
Stop talking about Rose, maybe.
I think part of it is a function of, like, a season, right? So, like, literally, Smith and Jones is immediately after.
Yeah.
Immediately. But it doesn't feel like that. And I think if it was just, like, the Doctor processing, it would be fine. But it is always a comparison.
Yeah.
And icky. No thank you.
I will say, and talking about the 10th Doctor being a dick, there is this moment where Brannigan sees him leave. The Doctor's going down to the other cars, and Brannigan's like, but isn't he a little bit magnificent? And I'm like, is he though? What have you seen, Brannigan, that makes him seem magnificent? He just seems like he's being annoying.
He's trying to solve stuff, so that's something, I guess.
It kind of rules. I don't.
No, it does.
I love him jumping from car to car to car to car. That's so good.
It's so good. It's almost Wes Anderson-y, and it's like Darjeeling Limited or something. It's just going from car to car to car, and each one is its own little world.
And RTD said something that I totally agree with. He said there's a lot of like sequences like this where it'd be left to right or right to left, like a chase. And there's not a lot of up and down. I really appreciate when things do something different like that, because I also feel the same way about, there's a lot of sitcoms that are left to right, the layout of their house. I like when there's some depth to it. There's not a lot of sitcoms that have deep rooms. They're always left to right. Like Seinfeld is like one of the few instances I can think of where you have like the living room in the front, and there's a dining room behind that, and then his bedrooms are behind that. There's depth to it, and you don't have that in a lot of sitcoms. So I like when we change things up a bit. So up and down is great.
You like to travel in a new dimension.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've become completely distracted by thinking about the constraints of format.
Welcome to my entire life.
Let's talk about the people we meet, because like, who all do we meet? We see the American Gothic people, right?
Oh yeah, I forget about them every time, but that's how it opens, isn't it?
Yeah. They're just those people from that painting for some reason. I'm going through them in the least important to most important, I guess. There's the nudists.
I want to go to most important. I'll be patient.
We got the nudists. We've got the Asian people. Like, also in that scene, there is a sign that says "Bad Wolf" in the background, but in another language. Those are probably the three that we meet the least, right? There's the super white guy. Like, he's just like head to toe white, and everything's covered in bubble wrap.
Oh yeah, I was delighted that to realize that everything was covered in bubble wrap.
I don't think I've ever noticed that. I've watched this episode so many times.
Yeah, it's not Doctor Who. If there's bubble wrap.
Anything to me before.
Yeah, you have to believe your bubble wrap. There's also the ones that warn Martha and our crew about the Macra, where it's like a black cat and these two women who look like they're twins.
I remember that.
Yeah, they like call the other car because they're the only other ones in the fast lane, and they're like actively getting crushed.
Oh yeah.
I want to know what their deal is, because it seems really specific. Because the black cat is there. I'm not saying the black cat is in fetish gear. I'm just saying that it's fetish adjacent.
Every single one of these cars does feel like a specific play on something. Like, American Gothic, Adam and Eve, the 2000 AD guy with his bowler hat and suit. He's probably my favorite.
He's your favorite?
Yeah, I don't know.
Lesbians.
There are, okay, yeah, you're right. I like the lesbians.
Yeah, and I like that they're old. It's nice that not everybody has to be young and beautiful. You can have an old couple as well.
They're so cute too. They're like, it's the same kind of thing that we were saying, right? That you're just like, oh yes, I know them. Like, somehow I have already met them. I understand them.
You kind of interviewed them for the Unseen Worlds.
They're kind of the gourd ladies.
Yeah. Toni did an episode of the Unseen World where she went to this place where they made gourd art.
Yeah.
And
they make gourd art, and they also have a gourd museum. And I wrote the line and made another human being say gorgeous art. And he delivers it with the exact right amount of disdain. I can feel how much he hated me while he says it.
But yeah, they were an old, adorable lesbian couple.
They were so cute.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I did think of them when we were watching this episode.
But this is the first homosexual marriage in Doctor Who.
There's something too about like somebody who has like a very specific like hyperfixation, right? I'm just like, yeah, that's just what this woman does. And you're like, absolutely. I know that person. Like knowing all the license plates and tracking everybody. Yeah. And it's like, yeah. That's exactly how that works. That person absolutely exists.
I have a great aunt who would just call my grandmother anytime a car drove past her house to tell her who it was. So, yeah, they exist.
I mean, what else are you going to do in a car for 20 years?
You know what? I've thought about this. I hope they have access to media, because I would just get caught up on all the shows. And books.
It would just be podcast city for days.
Yeah. I actually wouldn't mind getting stuck in a traffic jam for 23 years. Just watching TV, watching movies.
Okay, but I can't be with you.
Oh.
Because you know that I can't make it past the 4-hour mark without losing my damn mind.
That is true.
You would be together in that really confined space for 23 years. Those cars are small. They are really small. You could never escape each other.
We drive fairly regularly 7 hours to go visit my parents.
It's fine for about 3.
And then that's how long I think my like working memory lasts. Because at the 3-hour mark, I'm like, this is forever. It's always been forever, and it always will be forever. I'm not getting out of this car. I just live here in this car. Every single time I'm in a car for more than 3 hours, it becomes Gridlock.
You become a nightmare, to be honest. I love you very much, but don't take very long car rides with Toni.
Everybody has to have flaws in order to be well-rounded. I wouldn't be a good character otherwise.
That's the one thing that does surprise me about this episode is there isn't anyone that's just like, I'm tired of being in this cube.
Right?
Everyone's just like, chill with it.
I'm saying I would have destroyed that whole place years ago.
I think they've gone through that phase, though. And they're just probably in a phase of acceptance because eventually you just learn to live with whatever it is you have to live with.
Oh, yeah, I understand that. Look where we are right now.
All the me's have already gone insane and are out.
I also, watching this, was watching it thinking, this feels like something that was made during COVID.
Yeah.
Like, just the way that it's set up does kind of feel very like a COVID thing where it's a whole bunch of very small sets with very small amount of people, and then everything that's big is CGI.
They communicate through Zoom.
And there is a virus.
Oh, yeah, there's the mood drugs. Bliss.
Russell T Davies very anti-drug in this episode.
Ugh, I don't even want to talk about this because I'll get started on it. Felt extremely relevant. The idea of just sort of, I mean, okay, there's stuff to talk about like the sort of ham-fisted dealing with like drugs and addiction and stuff because it's a metaphor, but also like, is that handled the best way? No. But there is something that feels very relevant about the like head in the sand of shit is going very wrong and the like human impulse to just be like,
ignore it.
Yeah, it's fine actually. And the like toxic positivity of like you just have to choose your mindset and like choose to be happy and choose not to worry about things that you can't control. I've been told by so many people like you just need to worry about things in your control and nothing's in your control, so just don't worry. And it's like, cool. I actually think more things are in my control and more things are in your control than like we actually think. And it's just easier to say, well, I can't affect that in any way. And like, I got very mad the other day. This is why I'm going to get too much into talking about stuff. I got very mad the other day because I was in a room full of people who like very much do have like institutional power. In that room, they were saying, yeah, I've just been trying to like disconnect because I don't have any control over anything. And so it just makes me feel bad. And these are people who very much like make decisions and are in charge of what money goes where. And I was furious and I like couldn't process, like in the moment I like couldn't process why I was feeling that way. Anyway, I think it's very interesting that like it is the like political body, right? That is just like, is like gone due to just being like bliss of just like, nope, I would rather choose just everything is fine. I don't have any control over it. I can't change anything. I'm just going to disengage and like find my own happiness. And now they're all dead.
But they died happy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But like they could have fixed it.
Can I mention MySpace?
Please
Yes.
do.
This may seem a bit left field, but when that series was transmitted, it was before the era of Facebook, just before Facebook. And MySpace was where everybody was. And the BBC, at the start of the series, they set up a MySpace account for Martha Jones, where Martha was saying, oh, I've been at work today in the hospital and a really weird thing happened. And I've met this man and I'm going off traveling with him. And if you followed Martha, as each episode was transmitted, she would log on and make these, these occasional cryptic comments related to the episode. And it's so funny because MySpace now is a bit like New York. It's this vast abandoned wilderness that used to have people on it, but now, there's just tumbleweed rolling down the avenues. Anyway, I just thought I'd put that in.
I miss that era of television so much, where we were like, oh, the internet is new and like we can use it. It has what's it called? Transmedia?
Yeah.
Like,
there used to be a lot of Twitter things as well. Like, I remember the entire cast of Community, like the cast of characters, had their own
Twitter.
Twitter.
Some show called Mononon. All the characters had their own Twitter.
Monsters Anonymous, if you're being lengthy.
I made Twitter accounts for all of Joe's characters as a homework assignment. I was very good at using homework assignments to do whatever I was going to do in the first place. Is the only way I got through school. But yeah, no, I miss that era a lot of like the like Lonely Girl 15, like where we were playing with how we can use these things. And I feel like what we've settled on now is boring.
Oh, of course. Everything is boring with the internet now. Everything is either boring or terrible. There is that bit in the episode where the doctor asks if we can talk to anyone else. And Brannigan says, yes, but they have to be on your friends list.
Yes.
Which sounds very of that specific moment where it's like, ooh, look at this. We're predicting the future based on MySpace.
Yeah.
I also do love the like, oh man, this is what's missing from today's internet. I'm about to be so old. This sense of like community, right? Like that's part of what makes this episode great when they are like going into all the cars and the hymn that they sing, right? Like
they all listen to the same MySpace profile song.
Yes. The fact that sense of community, even though they're all very much in these own little worlds, that is old internet, because the new internet is just that it's one place and everything is in one place. And there's not the like, oh, well, I have the Douglas Adams forum that I go to and the Doctor Who forum that I go to. And I just miss forums. Let me be a millennial for a minute and say I miss the smaller internet.
Everything is so relentlessly corporatized and politicized these days, and you're either letting some giant corporation suck your soul dry, or else you're watching people tear each other to pieces because of their racist or xenophobic views or whatever. Sorry, that's my lighthearted contribution.
Speaking of the dangers of technology and the internet, I don't know why I want to say this, but the couple that kidnapped Martha, the woman looked very familiar. She was in White Bear, the Black Mirror episode, where she gets tortured on a loop over and over again.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, it was bugging me the whole episode. I was like, I've seen her somewhere, and it was White Bear. So technically I saw her in Gridlock first and just forgot.
Part of the reason that I feel like the internet felt like a community in that era is because it was all people who were choosing to go on the internet. The internet was for internet people.
Yeah.
And then right around Facebook and Web 2.0, like proper, suddenly everyone was on the internet and you kind of had to be on the internet. And so the internet was suddenly full of people who were, at best ambivalent about being on the internet, or felt like they had to be on the internet, and were not like interested in being on the internet for like what it was, just like kind of were there because they were supposed to be there. I now think so much about Westerns. Like, you watch Deadwood, and like you watch so many Westerns are about the coming of civilization to the Wild West, and the way that like corporations and everything are building up towns to make the West habitable or whatever for everyone. And that's kind of what it feels like to have lived through this era of the internet, to watch what felt like this open, expansive place be fully colonized by corporations and corporatized and set up. Watching that die, I understand that feeling now.
The wild, wild web. I'm out of things to say. Is there anything anybody else wants to talk about this episode?
Not about this episode, but I did promise you some time ago by email, I am going to solve one of your long-standing mysteries. This is over the podcast series as a whole. You have occasionally commented on a particular thing, and I've come up with a solution for it.
I'm so excited to get new knowledge.
I'm going to say, let's leave this as a bit of a mystery.
Oh, you want to go to an ad break?
We're going to go into an ad break, and then you have to listen to this dang ad so you can get to the solution of whatever this mystery is. Does that sound good?
That sounds good.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back for the solution to this mystery and also final thoughts.
Winter is coming. Prepare with a fine cigar and listen to the Cigar Nerds podcast. We smoke cigars and talk about movies and all kind of nerdy things. Available at cigarnerdpodcast.com. Also on the ESO network at esonetwork.com.
And we're back. So, Steve, what you got for us?
Well, I've been thinking, and this goes back a long way. Do you remember the Chumbleys?
Yes.
Yeah.
How could I forget?
In the episode with the Chumbleys, Vicky sees them and talks about how they have a sort of a Chumbly movement. And then they start calling them the Chumbleys. But then you go to the alien spaceship and they're calling them the Chumbleys. And you're kind of saying, well, that's kind of weird because why are they calling them the thing that we just made up? And the same with the Ice Warriors in Patrick Troughton's time. You know, they were buried in the ice. So we call them the Ice Warriors. But why do they call themselves the Ice Warriors? And it got me to thinking about the way the TARDIS translation circuit works. I was thinking that, right, okay, if you take a table is a thing that we have a word for, and it's probably a thing that, say, I don't know, the Ice Warriors would have a word for table as well. So we already have a word for it, and when the Ice Warriors talk about a table, the translation circuit goes, yeah, you know, they'll hear the Ice Warriors say the word table. But when we come across something for the first time, and we don't have a name for it, and we decide that thing is called a Chumbly, then when we meet the aliens say whatever their word is for Chumbly, and the TARDIS translation circuit goes, yeah, they're saying Chumbly, because that's what we call that thing. And the same with Ice Warriors. The Ice Warriors' real names might be Columba Patak or whatever, but we've already started calling them Ice Warriors. So now the TARDIS is translating them into English as Ice Warriors. How does that sound?
This is fantastic.
That makes
I love
a
this.
lot of sense.
If I were on the TARDIS and I realized this, I would start gaming the system.
Naming everything.
The stupidest name possible.
The Atom Impulse.
I love, Christine, how you've taken it one step further in the blink of an eye.
That's what I try to do.
No, I fully get it. The moment that I realize I have the ability to name cute robots Chumbleys,
Yeah.
it's fucking over.
It's just,
Take me to every robot planet.
there's just gonna be a whole race of aliens called the goofballs or something.
You just pull out a Dr. Seuss book and be like, you're this one, you're this one. These are bumble tweezers.
I gotta write Doctor Who so I can put this in there.
Yeah, this fully works and I love it.
This alien are just called Daves. They're all Daves.
I was just thinking the word Dave. Dave's a good comedy name. Dave and Steve. I think it's the V. The V makes it funny.
Humor is stored in the V.
So now that we've established a new Doctor Who lore.
Dr. Horror sounds like a really interesting program. Can we watch that, please?
Oh, it's probably on the internet somewhere.
Okay, this is what I thought I was going to discuss when I came on the episode.
Sorry, I was trying to say now that we've established Doctor Who lore, or Doctor Horror for short. But do you know what time it is, Tony?
I can't.
My favorite episode of Doctor Horror, Girl Dick.
I can't say anything other than it's time for final thought. We've already done a bit. I'm done.
I've always liked this. I would say seasons 2 and 3 are not my favorite era of Doctor Who. Even though I lived through them and very attached to them, I will say season 3 is the season that made me almost give up on Doctor Who, wherein I was so let down by the season 3 finale that when season 4 rolled around, I was kind of just moved on to other things, and it took me forever to catch up to it. And then when I did watch it, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. But this has always been one of my highlights of season 3. I think it's stealthily one of Russell T Davies' best episodes that he's written himself. Love its vibes. I love there's Macra there. We didn't really talk about the Macra that much, but it is kind of appropriate that the Macra are once again like set up in a dystopian civilization that is trapped people. I remember the Macra Terror has the cheerleading and the parade and everything, which feels like the hymn and everything, you do kind of sense that even though the Macra are just there, it feels like an afterthought. They are thematically appropriate, which I appreciate. And again, like I said, I like the arcs for the characters. This feels what I want default Doctor Who to be. This is a B+ episode, but it is my B+ episode.
I really liked this episode a lot more than the first time I watched it. Even the second time I watched it, probably.
What about the third time you watched it?
This is the third time I've watched it, so.
How do you feel about it?
Third time's the charm, you know? I was more prepared for what Doctor Who is and can be. Because I remember watching it the first time, I was like, why don't they just fly up? That's actually answered in the episode, and I just didn't pay attention. Yeah, it's because I was annoyed from the beginning. Part of it was when I watched it the first time, I was annoyed because I wanted to watch it in order, and Ray was making me watch episodes out of order. And also, this is an episode that it helps to have seen Doctor Who, because it is sort of the culmination of the, this is called the Face of Bow trilogy. So yeah, what I like about this episode is it both feels epic in scope, because it's, this huge dystopian world. There's like thousands of cars. It's this, they fly off into this big city at the end. And there's like the whole that huge council that's all dead. It's very big and epic, but there is still a lot of small, grounded human moments, Like every scene in the cars are like, these people, you feel for these people. There's a community there. So it's both big and small at the same time. And I really enjoy that about it.
Would you say that it's bigger on the inside?
Actually, it's a little bit bigger on the outside, I feel like. But yeah, I'll give it to you.
I really enjoyed this episode, and I loved, how it draws you along emotionally. I loved the character building in it because, again, even in really, really small amounts of time in each car, you get to feel like you know those characters, and you can imagine their lives forward and backward from that point. That's really nice. I also like the fact that sometimes RTD can be really heavy-handed and hammer and chisel with his series arc references, but I think they're done really gently in this one. There is a "you are not alone," but there's that lovely kind of calling forward for Martha, where we start to see her faith in the Doctor and how she inspires other people. But it's not handled with a sledgehammer, so it comes across much, much nicer. And again, anything with a nice ecological bent takes my boxes, and the dangers of over-reliance on cars and traffic and pollution. It's nice to see that being referenced, again, without a sledgehammer.
This is how you get Macra. Do you want Macra?
And a stray thought I had when I was watching this, I just wonder when the Macra catch the cars, is it the car they want, the metal and the plastic, or is it the nice people inside that they want to eat? Which one is it?
Maybe a bit of both. Balanced meal.
I am kind of glad to have rewatched this again because, I think when we watched it together, and I remember you being like, oh, I don't want to watch this one because I watched it with Ray and it wasn't very good. And I was like, I think I was like very quick to be like, yeah, but just like there are better episodes this season. This is a solid episode.
Yeah, I was wrong.
You were wrong. I'm glad we got the opportunity to correct that. I like it. Yeah.
So I guess those are your final thoughts?
Much it. I mean, I would just be repeating a lot of what was already said, so.
All right. Before we go, Steve, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Nothing particularly at the moment. I kind of have dropped off Twitter / X. I can't bring myself to post there, but I am on Blue Sky as Steve Conway IRL. The IRL was meant to be Ireland, but whenever I look at it now, I see it as Steve Conway in real life.
Ireland is the only place that's real life.
Yeah.
That's what I've got from that.
All right. So, Christine, anything you need to plug?
I would like to plug the concept of civil disobedience.
All right. Say more.
Yeah, please say more.
And the usual stuff. The books, the, relativity, yada, yada, yada. Mostly civil disobedience.
All right, cool. I'll say follow us we're on Blue Sky as well. We've also dropped off of Twitter X. So we're Watch Your Ass. I'm Minty Pineapple. You're
I'm forward power, but it's just the consonants, so it's
FWD-PWR.
FWD-PWR. Listen, I saw it on a readout one time when I used to work Master Control, and I thought it was neat.
And if you liked this episode, you can check out more on WatchARassilon.com. You can also find our podcast, our Patreon, and more at Linktree/Watch-A-Thon. I also want to give a special shout out to Vincent and Yale for providing us with our amazing theme song.
Thank you, Vince.
Our amazing theme hymn. No? Okay. Check out more of their music at vincentandel.bandcamp.com. And tune in next time when we talk about Daleks in Manhattan and evolution of the Daleks with our Dalek resident expert, Lainey Lex Terminate Henderson.
Oh, nice.
So until next time, keep calm and wrestle on.
Goodbye, and I love you in a platonic, parasocial way.
Bye.
Bye.
The Macra do exist.
I married one.
You are not alone.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.